I don't want a lot this Christmas. This is all I'm asking for. Wait. We can't use that song in the intro? It's copyright. Mariah Carey will sue us. What does she need royalties for? How much money has she made off that song alone?
I don't think she'll sue us personally. I feel like she has a team of lawyers for that.
The Mariah Carey lawyers. I'm afraid of them.
All right. So today we're doing top 10 Christmas episodes.
I mean, yeah, we did a top 5 spooky episodes, but we didn't do a top 5 Thanksgiving episodes because we only really had one. So we're just going right to Christmas.
Well, we could just sloppily edit all the Christmas episodes into Thanksgiving episodes. I mean, that would be equally valid.
Who would ever do that?
No one. That would never happen. Ever.
So yeah, in this episode we're doing the top 5 Christmas episodes.
And when we say Christmas, I think just winter in general, I think we can kind of count as Christmas episodes. Like, anything that would just feel right watching around Christmas. Like,
for me, I think I might view this more as a, top 5 episodes you watch when you want to get the Christmas experience.
Yeah,
for example,
exactly.
One of my favorite episodes of all time, which didn't make the list, is, or I don't know if I'd say one of my favorite, but perhaps my favorite snow episode of all time is, Toby Had a Little Lamb. And I did not put that on the list because I just don't feel like... I don't get Christmas feelings from that episode very much. I have that more as just a fun winter episode.
Wait, what? Really? That's your favorite snow episode?
I think it is. It's really heartwarming.
I'm utterly shocked. It's in season 6.
I know, but I had Ultimate Christmas. I remember read that from, Blockbuster Video way back when. And I was 12 at this point. I remember watching it with my dad. And I have really good memories of that episode. It's such a sweet thing. The lambs
I
are
do
cute.
love that episode. My favorite part is I love seeing Duck with that massive snowplow.
I know, right?
He's just this big, powerful engine, and he just plows through the snow, and even he can't get through, so it makes the threat even worse, and it's like Toby's victory is even more impressive.
It's just such a masterfully done episode. Great characters, fantastic sets, the little things where it's like, Toby, I can go across it because I'm small. It's just such a
I know,
cute
I love that
episode.
episode, so shout out to that episode, even though it's not involved.
Yes, you know what, just remember, these top 5 episodes are great, but they all suck next to Toby Had a Little Lamb.
Yes. Now that we've correctly prepped the audience to not value anything we say going forward.
Yes. Yeah, it's all that we are horribly biased to what we consider Christmas. Shall we begin with your number 5?
All right. So my number 5 is Thomas, Emily, and the Snowplow. And I really love this episode. I think it might be my favorite Thomas and Emily episode. Halloween is another one that's a really great Thomas and Emily episode. But I think this might be my favorite episode to kind of show how Thomas and Emily's dynamic works. Because they just drive each other crazy, and it's so fun to watch.
They are such a great character pairing. They bounce off each other so well.
I love how this happens. It's like this back and forth between them. Emily gives Thomas all these orders and acts like, she has dominion over him. And Thomas is furious about it, right? So then he's like, okay, I'll never listen to her again in my whole life. That is now a decision I will make right now. And it's like, that's an insane thing to do. But Thomas is so petty that he's like, yeah, I'll never listen to her again. No matter what she says. Even if she's trying to save my life. I don't care. And so then... Emily actually has an important thing to tell Thomas, which is you need to take your snowplow or you're going to get trapped in the snow. But the best way for her to approach him might have been like, Thomas, I know I've given you a lot of orders recently, but this one is actually very, very important. Please take your snowplow. But she just goes up to him and she's just like, take your snowplow, Thomas. And Thomas is like, no, I won't. Who are you to tell me that? They don't speak each other's language at all. They just argue so much. I love how when Thomas does get buried in the snow, he's so angry that that this has happened to him. And then Emily shows up and she's like, I told you. And Thomas is just like, you should be sorry that you bossed me around so much. And then Emily responds, I love this response. She's like, I am sorry. Sorry you didn't listen to me. They don't let up at all. They never they never have a moment where they just take a breath and they're like, you know what? We're both in the wrong. Let's try to get along. That doesn't ever happen.
I'm waiting for Thomas and Emily, the sitcom.
Yeah, I know. They would make such a great sitcom. They have this rivalry going that I just love. And even by the end of the episode, what I love is they don't really truly have a moment where they're like, you know what, we were both wrong. We both appreciate each other. There's still kind of this tension where it's like they're both on good terms and they're both back at the sheds. They're both smiling. However, the final line of the episode isn't like an apology. Emily says something really great, which is another great line. Some of Emily's best lines come from this episode. She says something like, but if you want to avoid getting into trouble, next time, just do what I say. It's not like they've learned anything from each other. It's not like Emily's like, okay, I won't give Thomas so many orders. And Thomas is like, okay, I'll listen to Emily when she gives me good advice.
Forget a moral.
But it's really, I really do love it because at the very end of it, it's like, even though they haven't really learned much, they're still on good terms at the end. So it's like this semi-healthy, semi-unhealthy rivalry that's always going to keep going. The two of them are always going to be in this contest to figure out which of them is the better. That's kind of where it evens out for them. That's like their default is being in this contest.
I might have to go through. I have to go and watch that episode again because, this is sounding like one of the best episodes ever.
Yeah, I really love it. I mean, to me, I think it's like the Thomas and Emily episode. Okay,
so my number 5, if I haven't shocked you enough already, Letters to Santa. It's such a heartwarming Percy and Harold story. It's like their characters are so them, and it's just such a heartwarming thing when you see Harold's out of fuel in the snow and Percy comes to save him when everything goes bad.
I have to say, Harold is very lucky that he managed to land the way he did, because he's just sitting.
What if he
there
landed like Tiger Moth?
Yeah, he could have had big trouble if he weren't careful.
Yeah, he gets there and his propeller's all dented. Oh no, Harold, what happened? But one thing, it's just a sweet episode, and if this was made with models, man. If this was made with models, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't look as good. However, I definitely think that I just love any Percy and Harold story. Again, it's the rivalry thing, but I think it's a healthier rivalry than Thomas and Emily's rivalry, because it's
more built off trying to one-up each other as opposed to who's the boss around here.
Yeah.
But yeah, Letters to Santa, out of all CGI Christmas episodes I've seen, this is definitely the one that spoke to me the most. I know the one with Henry's secret box might be a classic, but this is the king of the CGI ones, in my opinion.
Really? This is your favorite CGI Christmas episode?
Yep.
Wow, I'm surprised by that, because it's like...
Granted, I haven't seen all of them, but from the ones I've seen, this one's my favorite.
The thing is, it's a pretty basic Percy and Harold story, and I do really like it. However, I feel like it doesn't really do anything all that new with the characters that wasn't already done.
For me, it just hits a lot of the right spots for me. So anyways, what is your number 4?
Okay, so my number 4 is Snow Engine. I love Oliver and Toad. I think everybody does. They're fan favorites. This episode adds a really interesting second layer to Oliver, where it's like...
I agree. I'm a great Western engine. I shouldn't have to shiver.
This episode adds a really interesting kind of layer to Oliver's character in that he hates snow. That fits him so well for some reason. It's because I think Oliver's a pretty cynical character. He's seen a lot of, bad things happen. It's basically the worst things that an engine can witness, he's witnessed. He's been through dieselization, he's lost a lot of friends, he's been in a lot of traumatic circumstances. He's kind of detached from things like Christmas magic. He's kind of detached from the sweeter side of life to a degree, because he's just seen such terrible things that he's kind of... He doesn't have time for the childish stuff. Whereas Toad, I feel like, has stayed in touch with his optimism a lot better. And I think one of Toad's primary roles as a character is to kind of provide that balance for Oliver. Because Oliver can kind of get cynical, I feel like he could get dark if he's not pulled out of it. And so Toad kind of balances him out and says, well, actually, Mr. Oliver, snow is magical. And it's like, he gives him his perspective. And Oliver would never come to that conclusion if Toad wasn't there to pull him out of his shell and tell him, there is good in the world. There is beauty in the world. Winter can be beautiful.
Winter can be beautiful. It's just not fun to go through. And it overstays its welcome.
Well, you're not a train. You have to get in a car and scrape stuff off your windshield and drive to work.
Yes, I do.
You're not a big heavy locomotive that melts the snow as you pass on through.
Yeah, they got it easy. They can just melt it off. I have to get up when it's cold out, turn on my car to heat up. Oliver the Great Western Engine's got it easy, bro.
But like, basically, I actually brought this up in the character gallery with Milk Tanker Media,
which you can check out.
I wonder if the reason Oliver hates snow so much is because, like, he was there in the late days of British Railways. They were not treating their engines very well. They were not maintaining them well at all. I wonder if they would leave him out in the cold, like on the sidings. Like a lot of steam engines probably were, where they didn't get nice warm sheds. They were just left out in the snow. And so they just get piled upon with tons and tons of snow. And he would learn to hate that experience.
Meanwhile, Toad's in the carriage shed with a nice little Christmas tree. Hooray for Christmas!
I could even see this episode taking place like right after Oliver comes to Sodor. So it's like he's slowly taking baby steps towards getting over his experience on British Railways.
That's a really heartwarming story then.
Yeah, and I feel like one of those baby steps that he takes is learning to love snow again. Because, he knows that he has a nice warm shed now. He's gonna be just fine. He's learning to feel again, once he's on Sodor and he's in a safe place. And also I just love that crash. The fact that Toad slides alongside, it's like the modern equivalent of when Toad falls in the little swamp, but then he like floats back up to the surface. It's like those little gestures that he does, just through physics, I think are really charming. And I feel like this episode captured everything about Oliver and Toad that is great about them that earlier seasons got right. It was a perfect love letter to those two characters. So I really love it for that reason.
You're giving me a new appreciation for the episode. I like that. Anyways, going on to my number 4 is another snow-themed episode. This one's just called Snow. And this was my, what I consider my pick that is questionable, because it's not really a Christmas episode, but this is one I throw in with the other Christmas ones. This one gives me a lot of Christmas feels. And it's also a really interesting episode for me, too, because I didn't see this episode until I was much older. And, like, Snow was kind of an elusive one to me. It was, I think it might have been first released in America on the Thomas Christmas Wonderland VHS. I'm not for sure on that. But yeah, this one, it's a great Season 5 experience. You got a avalanche because Season 5 always has to be in grand scale or something.
It is one of the coolest crashes in the show, I think, is that whole big avalanche and the trucks falling.
I don't really think that was the biggest iconic one, but what I really remember about it most is, like, two things. Well, one, I really like when the avalanche happens, you actually, like, see the trucks in the avalanche that's happening. Like, that's a really nice touch. I mean, it makes sense, but I don't know, it feels like something you would see. And of course, you got the great music and stuff like that. But it's also really cool the effect they did when they're like frozen inside, drinking tea as if nothing can happen. I'm not quite sure how that works, but it's just a love episode with a lot of really cool things. It's just a really nice way to cap off Season 5, really. Like, Season 4, in my opinion, okay, here's my bold statement here. The end of Season 4 kind of sucked. I mean, I love the episode Mind That Bike, but what an underwhelming end to George Carlin and Season 4 as a whole. I mean, what's our big grand ending? Not a Christmas episode.
The thing is, I don't see the series as being in chronological order anyway, so I don't really care what it ends on. Like, when I look at the order of episodes in Season 4, what I think of is, why is it that a Skarloey Railway story, Four Little Engines, that's meant to take place in, like, 1954, is, like, a few episodes away from, like, Sleeping Beauty, which takes place in 1970, right? Like, the whole season's messed up in terms of the order, so I'm not really...
That type of stuff I can understand, especially with how big you are into the timeline, but for me, I'm just looking at it from a season perspective, and I'm like, I like nice little happy tail ends we had each season beforehand. And then Season 4 screwed it all up. The one misstep, imperfection. But Season 5 fixed that. We had a nice snow episode. So, what's your number 3?
So my number 3 is Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree. Everything else I chose for the list is because of the story, but this is the one episode that I like just because of the aesthetic, because I always loved watching this when I was younger. I love how Donald and Douglas look against the snow. They're like all black and then the snow is white. And
it looks so good against the snow.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that one shot where from a distance with Donald, Douglas, Gordon, and Henry. That just looks so good for some reason. And that shot when the engines are about to leave for Carol's, where they're in the yard, and it's all dark, and it's like, the signal box is right there, and you've got like Thomas and James and Edward and Donald and Douglas and like this really interesting combination of characters. They just all look so good together.
I'm not sure why, but everything feels like a lot more real and natural compared to the last Christmas episode and this episode to me. Like, yeah. I just adore the visuals here. And
there's something about it that it's hard for me to explain. That it's so nice to watch. Like, it's so satisfying.
It's probably one of the Christmas episodes that just feels the most right. Like, it's season 2, it's classic. It's got a lot of, like, really happy moments in it. And it's just, the little things go a long way.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so my number 3 is It's Only Snow. This episode, I think back to, like, this is really a trend with, like, the Christmas episodes as opposed to, like, say the more spooky themed episodes. Christmas is really a time of year where you're thinking about a lot of, like, good feelings and stuff that makes you happy. And I think that's something that really connects with the Christmas episodes is, like, what episodes make me feel the happiest or give me good memories. And It's Only Snow I think back to because, like, I remember when I first saw this episode or parts of it, it was on PBS Kids Sprout, of all things, when they would show, like, Thomas segments in between other shows or whatever. And this episode is just such a cool episode. Like, it's so impressive what they did where they had the scene where Thomas's snowball hits a rock and it literally flips over and then takes out a dang water tower.
Yeah,
how cool is that?
Yeah, I love... this really goes for all of season 6. I do love that episode, just the way it feels. And it's like, there's something so kind of... There's something calming about season 6. Like, it feels like it's kind of a sedated version of the first 5 seasons, where it's like more, there's something kind of calmer about it.
Yeah. And the scale doesn't feel as big, but at the same time, it just feels like a lot of, almost like, I don't really want to say littler stories, but just like kind of a life on Sodor in some ways in certain episodes.
Yeah, it feels like it kind of calmed down after Magic Railroad and kind of went back to business.
Anyways, so what's your number 2?
So, my number 2 is the missing Christmas decorations. That was the coolest thing when it came out.
Oh, yes! Because, oh, man, that was the episode.
It's the only episode we've ever had that had Diesel 10 in it. And I really wish they would use him more, because I feel like he's one of their biggest assets. But what I love about it is, it's a really great, like, follow-up to Day of the Diesels. I mean, it's years after, but, like, it follows Day of the Diesels really well, because all the engines are on an equal playing field, finally. That happened in Day of the Diesels, where finally, the discrimination ended. However, Diesel 10 still doesn't trust it. Like, he spent so long being judged and being, considered, worse off and living in this really run-down Diesel Works. He's used to being ignored. He thinks that the steam engines, that the Fat Controller, they're all still gonna ignore him. And so because of that, without even asking if they're getting decorations, he runs off and steals the steam engines, because he thinks, well, if you're not going to give me any, then I'm going to steal yours. And he's genuinely surprised when they actually do get decorations from the Fat Controller. When they go back to the Diesel Works, and everybody's like, hey, we got these new decorations. And Diesel 10's like, what? Like he's shocked, right?
It's so sweet.
Yeah, I know. He's not, and it's really nice because it shows his true character. In that moment where he gets surprised by the fact that they got decorations, you see where he's coming from. He's not doing it to be mean. He's doing it because he thinks that everybody hates him and that they are not going to give him the Christmas that he deserves. And so he's fending for himself and all of his Diesel friends by doing it. And then when he realizes that he actually was remembered, he's not like, now we have all of the decorations we could ever want. Now he's just like, ew. Like he's shocked. He did not expect that. He legitimately expected to be forgotten. I think this episode is the exact moment where the whole Diesels versus steam engines rivalry officially 100% ends in Thomas. Like, I think Day of the Diesels is the big incident where it kind of finally comes to a close narrative-wise. However, the effects are still dwindling after this episode. Like, another episode I wanted to put on my list, but didn't really have a place for, was Tree Trouble, which comes right after Day of the Diesels. And it's about Thomas and Diesel, Den, and Dart trying to compete to find the best Christmas tree. And it's interesting how they're all on equal terms, technically, because it comes after Day of the Diesels, but they're still not used to being on the same side, so they're all competing with each other, and they're all kind of trying to prove that who is best. and like they're trying to get along, but it's not quite working out, and it's like they're in this transitionary period where diesels and steam engines are equal on paper, but they still can't really get along yet. And then I think Missing Christmas Decorations is finally the point where like all the other diesels, I think to an extent, have been convinced that they're gonna get Christmas decorations probably. But Diesel 10 is the hardest to convince. He's the very last one because he's.
And when it actually happens, he's completely shocked.
I know, yeah, and what I love is the moment where even Diesel 10 decides to finally let it go, is that he and the others all happily bring all the decorations to Tidmus Sheds, because they've broken all of theirs, so they want to share what they have with them. And that is the moment. That's like almost like a Thanksgiving type moment where it's like they all start getting along again.
There's an option for the Thanksgiving episode.
Yes, but like I just love that episode because I think it really caps off the steam engine diesel engine conflict really well. All the other engines have been convinced, but Diesel 10, he needs that one last episode to tell him, no, we recognize you now, we care about you now, you deserve Christmas too. And when he realizes that, he can finally drop all the baggage from the past, and they all finally get along after years. It's just such an amazing close to that whole saga, and I really wish we would see more of Diesel 10 because of it. Because he was awesome in that episode, and I would love to see more with him in them because he's just such a great character.
That was wow. And remember, folks, that's his number 2. But no, that is wow. I definitely am gonna look at that episode in a different way going forward. Wow, that's incredible. My number 2 is going to actually be pretty quick because, well, I already kind of wanted to weigh in when Lemmy was talking about It's Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree. Love this episode to death, love it. Like I said before, everything just feels right. Great scenes and stuff like that. Great character moments. I love the little Christmas bells they add to Donald and Douglas' theme when they're going around. Donald and Douglas' snowplows are so freaking cool. I don't know why they're slanted, but they're really freaking cool.
Yeah, they have the coolest snowplows. I love how they have that slant to them. Like, if Donald and Douglas had, like, Thomas's type of snowplow, it wouldn't look nearly as good. But they have, because they have those big, huge, slanted snowplows, those are the coolest things. Those are just, I love the look of those.
I think of all the Christmas episodes, I think this is my favorite one, like, look-wise, I think.
Yeah, I might agree with you there.
Anyways, so what's your number 1?
My number 1 is... Snow Place Like Home. The one where where Kevin gets stuck in the snow and then Victor goes out looking for him. I really, really, really love this episode. That's
the one where he wanders off from the Steamworks, right?
Yeah, Kevin basically what happens is that so Victor at the beginning of the episode says, I hate snow. I want nothing to do with it. Kevin, you should not go out there. It is not safe for you. And so Kevin, is like, all right, boss, I won't. But then he sees the snow outside and it's like, it looks so fun, right? And so he goes out there because he has some time off from the Steamworks. So he decides to go outside and play in the snow. And so at first he's having a lot of fun. He skids around and he does donuts and stuff. And he's having a blast out there, right? Playing in the snow. But then he takes a jump too fast. And he crashes onto the ground and falls into a snowdrift. So he gets stuck out there. And he cries out for help, but nobody hears him. So he's trapped just outside the Steamworks, but nobody knows he's there, right? So, anyway, then Emily is at the Steamworks too, and she's suspended up on the crane, and she needs a spare part. But it's held up at the Skarloey Railway. It's held up at the transfer yards. So Victor goes somewhere, and that's when Kevin takes his chance and gets trapped, right? So then Victor comes back, and he realizes Kevin is gone, and he's really worried, and he realizes Kevin probably went after that part. He probably drove all the way to go get that part for Emily, and he got stuck in the snow somewhere. I have to go help him. And he doesn't realize Kevin is at the Steamworks, right? He thinks that he's gone off and he's out in the snow somewhere. And it's really touching because Victor's very scared for him. He's like really worried. And Victor, without skipping a beat, he like backs into this siding and they start lowering the snowplow onto him, and it's awesome. It's like just they get him up and running so quick. Like Victor clearly has a game plan for if this sort of thing happens.
He has, which of you guys know, it's like there's a lot of codename operations for every time Kevin may have done something stupid.
I like to think Victor's very prepared for a lot of things. He seems like, I think Victor's one of the most responsible characters in the whole show. And there's this really great moment where Thomas is in the Steamworks too, and he sees Victor putting on his snowplow, and Thomas is like, "But Victor, you hate snow." And Victor's like, "I know, Thomas, but Kevin might be out there." And it's like, he doesn't even skip a beat.
Victor might be one of the most underrated characters out of the show.
I know.
Really
Victor's one of my favorite characters in all of Thomas. I mean, he's so noble. And I love the fact that, firstly, this episode adds this really interesting layer, again, like Oliver, that Victor hates snow. Victor isn't really the type of character that seems to have a lot of pet peeves. He's very practical, and he's willing to put up with a lot, right? Like, he doesn't complain about nothing. So it's interesting that he complains about snow, because it makes him a little bit more relatable. Like, yeah, Victor isn't perfect. You know, there are some things that he's annoyed by, not for any particular reason, just because he doesn't like them, right? It's a lot more human. And so I really like that they add that to him. But what's great about it is that they use it to prove what a noble character he is, because he totally disregards his own comfort because he's worried about Kevin. It's just the sweetest thing. And you can see how much Victor struggles. Like, you know, when he's going through the snow, there's these massive snow drifts, and he's red in the face, and he's really struggling to get through and get to the transfer yards. But he doesn't give up because he wants to get to Kevin, and because he's so worried about Kevin. And this is, we've seen Kevin and Victor's relationship played for laughs a lot in the show up until this point. And it's a great dynamic, but this is the moment, I think, where we really see the truth of it, which is that Victor isn't just annoyed by Kevin. He doesn't see Kevin as just a pain. He deeply, deeply cares about Kevin. He feels responsible for Kevin. I mean, Victor is like a father figure to Kevin. And this is the episode that I think is the strongest example of that. So, you know, I really love this story. It kind of mirrors that idea of, like, you know, that the people you care about are the most important thing during the holidays, you know, no matter what. And also the ending is great, whereas you've got Thomas, Kevin, and Victor all in front of the foundry, like in the Steamworks, and it's like a fireplace. That's so clever. I love that so much, where they're all, like, relaxing around the fireplace. Kevin is warming up because he's been outside so long. It's such a heartwarming moment. I love that.
Yeah, it's a good episode.
You haven't seen it, have you?
Actually, I have. It's a good episode. I like it.
Is that it?
The problem is I haven't seen it in a while. But yeah, I think I can't really weigh much more in on it. I'd have to see it again, but that was not an expected number one, and I really am. I think that's a good choice, really.
It blew me away when I first saw it, because it just, like, it's definitely the strongest Christmas story I've seen. And it, like, a lot of the Christmas episodes, like, I care about what they add to the characters, right? Like, I think Missing Christmas Decorations is so great because it shows that it wraps up a story arc that Diesel 10 has been going through for a long time. And I think it's really cool for that reason. I think that Snow Engine is cool because it really gives us some great Oliver and Toad moments. It tells us how they both view snow. It gives us new information on them. And, you know, Thomas, Emily, and the Snowplow, I love for Thomas and Emily's dynamic, and that it helped build that dynamic that I love so much. There's like 2 or 3 episodes that really, really nail that, and that episode is one of them. The only one on my list, really, that isn't about, strong kind of character building is Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree, just for the nostalgia I have for it and for how much I love the feeling of it and how it looks. But everything else...
this episode is, it's nice to have an episode focusing so much on these two. Like I said before, Victor is very underrated, and the fact that we give a time to really... Because I know not everyone likes Kevin, but I like Kevin. It's nice to see their dynamic a little bit in such a touching way, you know?
Yeah.
So... let's go ahead and get into my number one. This episode for me is the episode that, like, I know Lou's list had a lot to do with, like, a lot of character moments and stuff. And like I said before, this one really is what episodes that connect with you the most. And when I think of a Christmas episode, this is always the first one that comes to mind. And kind of ironically so when you know a little more about it. It's Thomas and Percy's Christmas Adventure.
Interesting. I was not expecting that, but you know,
it
was one of my first thoughts as well because it's I don't know. There's something about it.
Season 3, a lot of things just feel so right and so Thomasy,
Yeah.
but Thomas and Percy's Christmas Adventure just feels like the one that's like the Christmas episode, which is so ironic because in the U.S. version they made a Thanksgiving episode, which is really weird because there's Christmas trees and the episode literally ends with "We wish you a Merry Christmas." But
I
besides that,
I never really found it weird when I was younger, because
it kind of felt like, well, the way I assessed it when I was young was, or it's like, Christmas is almost here, so it's like, hey, this is the first time we put up like the Christmas decorations.
Yeah, that's how I saw it as well. So I never really
I
found
kind
it
of like,
weird.
honestly, it's a little bit like they're having. Oh, granted, I guess Thanksgiving doesn't really work on a British railway, but still, like. It kind of makes a bit of sense when you look at it that way, to where it's like, hey, it's like putting up the Christmas tree for the first time this year.
Yeah, no, it could make sense. I mean, it just the problem is just that it doesn't, it's in Britain.
The definitive version, I guess, would be the UK one, but I like George Carlin's narration, so I prefer the US version.
The thing is, they cut out a whole scene. They cut out a whole scene about Santa Claus in the UK.
Which is really good, though.
version.
I really wish there was a Carlin edited version of this, because,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, Santa goes down chimneys. First he's like my funnel or whatever. And it's funny. It's such a good Percy moment.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
And it's, as one of the earlier episodes not written by the Audreys, it really shows they really got the characters down. And another thing about this episode, too, that I love is, I love that scene where, Harold's dropping down stuff for, the villagers, and you see, the POV angle of, the stuff falling down to the villagers. But, yeah, it's just, I know it might seem kind of cop-out to say everything just feels right, but
yeah,
it just feels like Christmas.
I get what you mean, though. It really does feel like the Christmas episode. Just, the way that it, it's hard to describe why. I guess part of it is at the end. Literally, the whole sheds are decorated. Thomas and Percy and all the engines are literally around the Christmas tree. So it's stuff like that, I think, really makes it feel like a Christmas episode.
So the ironic thing is, the best Christmas episode is Thomas and Percy's Mountain Adventure. Wrap your head around that one.
Yes.
So I think that's going to conclude the list here, but we definitely had some really great Christmas episodes.
Yeah,
I hope
definitely.
you guys are enjoying the Christmas stuff we got going on at community radio here and such. And I hope you guys enjoy this holiday season. It's a great time of year. And
yeah, happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas. And, this has been Thomas Top Tens. I've been Master of the Lemons, a.k.a. Lemmy.
And I've been MultiGreenThunder. Happy holidays!
See you, everybody.